just when you're trying to like a fighter and he goes and says one of the stupidest things you can say to make you instantly dislike a fighter. Yeah, that's Arman Tsaryukan right now, who's a fighter I've generally been okay with. I really like his underrated like Twitter trash talk. Like his feud with just Michael Chandler has been the funniest thing to see. I generally like his fights. A couple times he's had some boring performances, but I mean that KO of Beneil Dariush. Just in general, I think he's had some pretty decent fights, and he's an interesting fighter. And I'm really excited for this rematch with Islam Makhachev. Their first fight was awesome for as a grappling fan's dream. Just great to see. And every time he has like something happen where it makes you hate him, for some reason you end up overlooking and you kind of come back. Like I always think of the Bobby Green altercation that really turned off a lot of people. It turned me off a little bit, but I ended up coming kind of back to it. His fight with Charles Oliveira, gutsy performance, surviving all the takedowns. I mean, good win. Refusing to do the anti-bullying PSA after fighting a fan was absolute Chad move. But then in an interview, he had to open his mouth and basically state that if he wins the belt, he's only going to be taking money fights because he's already basically secured his legacy, which is already stupid already. He already had it when he said only accepting money fights because we don't want that right now. A lot of the champions are trying to do that right now, and they haven't earned that yet. They have an entire division to worry about. For Arman, if he wins, there's gonna be an instant rematch. So like, cool your jets already. You're not that guy yet. Like, let's not worry about that yet. Two, saying you've already secured your legacy. I mean, having a win over Islam Makhachev would be amazing. That is, I think, any fighter at lightweight's goal right now is to have that win over arguably the greatest lightweight we have just in UFC history. Arguably, at least if he's not first, he might be second. It's whichever you want to say. If you want to say it's Khabib, if you want to say it's Islam, based on Islam's current run, how he fights, just in general, for whichever, having a win like that would be great. But only trying to accept money fights and saying you've already secured your legacy. Winning the title is amazing, and you will always have that as being a champion. But that does not instantly secure your legacy, as we have a lot of champions who I don't think are going to ever get put in the UFC Hall of Fame. I can't imagine Tim Sylvia getting put in the UFC Hall of Fame. I can't imagine... I'm trying to think of some of the other fighters. And sometimes the upset is what they remember for, like Matt Serra. But nobody's saying Matt Serra is one of the best lightweight or welterweights of all time. They're saying this guy got one of the biggest upsets of all time. Which, in part, is because he wasn't amazing as a fighter. Which I know he could crush me. He's a great coach, but you get what I'm saying. I don't think fighters like, I'm trying to think of some other examples, Renan Morale is going to get into UFC Hall of Fame. I don't think Cody Garbrandt would get into UFC Hall of Fame, even though he's a popular fighter. Him winning the title was his highlight, but I don't think it was enough. And with the losing and all that stuff, but you get the idea. Winning the title is great, but how many fighters have won the title and then gotten cut? I can't imagine Sean Strickland getting added to the UFC Hall of Fame. It's just, there's such a thing as, you're never really done. It's kind of legacy. The goal is always like, you want to become champion. That's always first. And from then on, it's defending the belt, because not every champion defends their belt. Most champions only either don't defend it or defend their belt one time. And for these fighters who haven't even won the belt yet to already being like only wanting money fights or wanting to move up to the next division, for some cases, I understand it, not because I think that it should happen or that I agree with it, but simply because their division, it's incredibly rare for the chance for them to become the GOAT of their division. Like, I think of Leon Edwards when he was talking about going up to middleweight. Not because I thought that he should or had the right to move up to middleweight, because he really didn't with his performance, but he did not have, I don't think he would have, even if he would have beaten Bilal Muhammad, I don't think he would have ever gone to a point where he would become the welterweight GOAT. Having to surpass George St. Pierre and Kamaru Usman was not going to happen. So trying to do something that, because the way for a lot of people is just to match title defenses or get close to it, and then you can argue it. For Leon Edwards, it'd be better just for him to go up to a division and become a double champion. Better for his legacy, better for all of that. And it just doesn't make much sense to me for these guys who haven't even won the belt yet to already be saying that. And I know a lot of people might be going, since I bat for Merab Dvalishvili, like, oh, well, he's only winning money fights. No, everyone's saying that because he didn't want to fight Umar Nurmagomedov, which is already kind of a crazy statement, because Umar has one ranked win, and they ended up fighting. Not much time passed in between it when the fight got made. So let's not act like this dude was on a ducking trail. Like, he wanted to fight Davison Figueiredo, and then the fight with Davison Figueiredo and Peter Yan got made. He wanted to rematch with Sean O'Malley, which I don't think would have been good, considering he's only defended his belt once, and it would have been a huge favoritism thing. But it's also a fight where in the last round he got hurt by Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is going to be more dangerous in a rematch than the first fight because he at least knows he can hurt Merab Dvalishvili. So let's not act like this is on the same boat. And I like Arman Tsaryukan, so this really annoys me that I have to shit on him for 6 minutes or whatever. But it's just annoying because we get great fighters like Islam Makhachev, who even then you can even say with how infrequently he fights, he at least is fighting. And I know we're going to say, well, he's only defended his belt against featherweights and one lightweight guy who's on a one fight win streak. Point is, at least he's fighting, and he hasn't really talked about moving up to welterweight yet, and he kind of crushed it a bit because of Belal Muhammad becoming champion. Belal Muhammad, he's kind of different because he kind of knows that, he's not going to be given money fights or a shot up to middleweight, off the bat. He doesn't have star power for that, but he didn't even care. He was like, I'm going to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. And yeah, he got injured, but at least the fight got made, and it's going to get made. Let's not ignore that. And then you got Alex Pereira, who's the biggest example, but who just has fought 3 times in a year, broke a record, is fighting all-comers. But then now we're having, fighters, a precedent being set, which has been set long before this, but we now have an issue of fighters wanting money fights or easy fights and wanting to protect their legacy, which never used to be a thing, and I think is a great way for me not to respect you as a champion, not because, oh, you're scared of these guys, but because that ruins your legacy, in my opinion. The moment you say, I only want money fights, or I don't want to defend against contenders, or I want to face interesting matchups, I don't want to fight these up-and-comers, you've lost a piece of your legacy because that shows that you weren't fully confident. I use John Jones as an example. People are like, well, he's already proven everything he needs to. At heavyweight? No, he hasn't. He has fought 2 fighters. One of them should not have been in a title fight at his age, slow, and it was a very boring and bad fight between him and Stipe Miocic. And then being Cyril Gane, who wasn't even a champion, he has not done shit at heavyweight. He has matched the same amount of title defenses as Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall got first. So people saying up and coming for Tom Aspinall is just stupid. And that has ruined a huge chunk of John Jones' legacy for me. If the, drug failures, I believe 5 drug fails, which is a record, I believe, and then ducking Tom Aspinall, losing to Dominic Reyes, it's insane. And then you have Arman Tsaryukan, who hasn't even won the belt yet, hasn't even won it yet. The fight hasn't happened yet. And, there's a chance he wins. I think he has a pretty decent chance, but he hasn't won it yet. And I just hate it because he's in a division that's very stacked. And for him to immediately try and go for money fights, I think will put him very low on a lightweight GOAT list, as that just sucks. But that's really my thoughts and rants. I'm just tired of these champions ducking in and then fans fighting some way, because the people who are now ripping Arman Tsaryukan will not keep the same energy for John Jones. And I'll leave it at that.